Number one on the Fraud Power Rankings. On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, I am once again asking the question that has stumped philosophers all season. Is being good good? You would think it would be, but this season I'm not so sure. So last weekend alone, not even the full week, just like last weekend on Saturday, we had Kansas lose at West Virginia, Baylor loses at Texas, Duke loses at home to Pittsburgh, 3 top 10 teams losing to unranked teams, throw in Memphis losing to Tulane, 4, that was on Sunday, I believe. 4 over the weekend, top 10 teams losing to unranked teams. And so far this week, we haven't even gotten to the weekend slate, which is a great slate, by the way. We've already had 3 more top 10 teams lose to unranked teams. I don't know. I don't know if being good is good. Kentucky loses at South Carolina, blown out at South Carolina, we should say. Major speed bump in my Kentucky victory laps that I've been taking this season. So we're going to have to take a pit stop and figure out what the hell went wrong there. Auburn loses at Alabama in a game I think Alabama was actually favored in, so maybe the gamblers will tell you that wasn't an upset. The AP pollsters will tell you it was. Either way, I'm going off of the little numbers next to these guys' names. And Auburn loses at Bama in a close game that was kind of sloppy, but is a fun rivalry. I'll talk about the rivalry a little bit. That's I can't believe I've gotten to a point where Auburn is playing Alabama in basketball, and I'm clearing my schedule to watch it. But that's where we're at. And then Illinois loses at overtime in Northwestern. Boo Buie goes bananas in the overtime or at the end of the game. He is a big time clutch performer, especially at home. He's been This Northwestern team has a hilarious home profile that they've beaten Purdue, they've beaten Illinois, and they've beaten Michigan State, and they've lost to Chicago State. Anyway, that's where we're at. It's top 10 teams continue to lose to unranked teams. College basketball is absolutely chaotic. We have not even gotten to February, much less March. And to make sense of it all, I am turning to the old trusty segment that I often do in times where I can't make sense of what I'm seeing. We're going with the Fraud Power Rankings today. We are turning to old reliable. We are busting out the Fraud Power Rankings. It's been a while since we've done this. I love doing this on the show, and that is what we are doing today. Let's get into it. All right, Fraud Power Rankings coming up. I'm gonna hit some of these games, the 3 big upsets, I guess. I'll just talk briefly about them before we get to the power rankings. So I'll start with Kentucky at South Carolina. I love this Kentucky team. I have not been bashful about that. I've been pretty open about how I thought that this was going to be a huge bounce back year for John Calipari and his program, and all the people that stopped trusting him and felt like the game had passed him by. This roster, to me, felt like a roster that was a vintage Cal roster, yada, yada, yada. If you've been listening to the show, watching the show, you know how I feel about this Kentucky team. And the other night, they get smoked by South Carolina, and it was not good. It was the problems were, one, there was very little effort from Kentucky. Defensively, obviously, it stands out more on defense, but offensively, it was very, very sloppy. And the appeal of this Kentucky team is that at times they can get up and down, and they can play a little unstructured, which I actually like, and that's something I said at the beginning of the season was I think the best case scenario for this Kentucky team seeing their potential is John Calipari getting back to the old days where everyone just accused him of rolling out the balls and not actually coaching. And for the most part, they've done that this year. Like he's allowed his guys to run and gun and take some stupid shots at times because he sees the bigger picture, which is letting the talent flourish. And instead of having dudes walking up the ball and turning to the bench and asking, am I allowed to shoot? What do you want me to do? You want me to pass here? Okay, I'll pass here. And then what is it, coach? What am I supposed to play a little more free or play a little more confident? And I think in the end that's going to be a good thing. But the downside to that and the fear now is that I do think that Kentucky gets sloppy at times offensively because that's part of the give and take of that. If you want to micromanage, maybe it's not quite as sloppy, but it gets a little stagnant, gets a little clunky. And now, I like watching the South Carolina game. They were very the offense was slide. The defense was obviously not great. But on top of it all, it just felt like there was like a snowball effect that I do kind of worry about with this group. That I don't think South Carolina is 17 points better than Kentucky. But South Carolina is a good basketball team. But yeah, I don't want to say they completely gave up, but if someone else wanted to say it, I wouldn't fight them. We'll just put it that way. So yeah, I thought the defense was bad. Obviously, I thought there was sort of a snowball effect where Kentucky realized it wasn't their night and they just kind of let it happen. And meanwhile, South Carolina's feeding off of that momentum and they're having a big year. The Lamont Paris has done a crazy job in year 2. Last year they were terrible. I mean, the South Carolina. The highlight of South Carolina basketball last year in year 1 for Lamont Paris was when Brandon Miller went nuts against them towards the end of the season, and G.G. Jackson and Brandon Miller had like a fun game, but they lost. That was the best. The best South Carolina memory was when Brandon Miller killed them down the stretch, and we have like 40-something points. So anyway, that's where the program was. Year 2, Lamont Paris they've been awesome this year. So I think like ultimately when you contextualize it all, like I don't think losing to South Carolina is a bad thing. I think Kentucky as a program has had a history of getting tripped up at South Carolina anyway. But yeah, this specific team is pretty good. Amici Johnson, the former Buckeye, who we definitely don't miss and definitely would not love to have on this team, hitting logo threes and he's got the swagger and I don't know, man. I don't think the loss is that bad. I do think that the way it sort of happened, the way the wheels kind of fell off, the offense just looking completely disjointed and very very little effort on defense is definitely a concern. But this is college basketball. That happens from time to time. Guys get feeling themselves a little too much and they need to be humbled. And maybe that's what if you're a Kentucky believer, you're hoping that this is the humbling part of the season. But yeah, I think if you paid attention to college basketball last year and had an idea of what South Carolina was, and now you see it this year that Kentucky is losing to South Carolina, you might think this is really bad. I don't really see it that way. I actually do think South Carolina beat Kentucky last year, so maybe the Brandon Miller game wasn't their highlight. I do think they beat Kentucky last. They seem to always beat Kentucky. I think they won in Rupp Arena last year. Yeah, I don't know. So it's not really panic button, but it is like, all right. Swallow, eat your humble pie, reset. Big stretch coming up for Kentucky. Next 6 before they go to Auburn. I don't think these are all must win in the sense that like it's embarrassing if you lose them. I think these next 6 are must win in that if I am to take you seriously as a national title contender that I think you are, you should win all 6 of these games. They have at Arkansas next. On Saturday, which the Arkansas is not good at all. Arkansas is the bottom is falling out of Arkansas season right now, but it's Kentucky coming into Bud Walton, and maybe Arkansas is looking at this as an opportunity to salvage everything and knock off Kentucky. But they go to Arkansas. You have Florida at home, a decent Florida team. You have Tennessee at home, who's very good, obviously, and probably the best team in the SEC. Which again, like losing to Tennessee at home is not a failure. It's not time to freak out that much, but it is. If you're serious about winning a national championship, you'll take care of business at home when the good team comes in. It's a big game. It's a rivalry game. You'll beat Tennessee at Vanderbilt, which should be an easy win. Gonzaga at home, again in a situation where like you have a desperate Gonzaga team looking at Kentucky saying this is our big chance to solidify our NCAA tournament hopes. And then you have Ole Miss at home, who started out really hot this season. I don't think is that great. I think Kentucky should win all 6 of those, and I think they need to win all 6 of those for me to get back to believe him. But yeah, I won't lie. I'm a little worried about not necessarily Kentucky having too much talent, but Calipari not fully knowing what he wants to do with the rotations. I'm starting to get a little 2015 vibes. The elephant in the room for me, Justin Edwards, was a guy I think when he got to campus was thought of as a potential top 5 pick, top 1 pick. I mean, I saw mock drafts early in the season that said he could be going number 1. It's a very, very weak draft. He hasn't been good. He hasn't been good for a little while, and he's still starting, which I don't think starting means everything. I think that's like kind of the fun phrase everyone tosses around now is like it doesn't matter who starts the game, it matters who finishes it. That's all fine and well, but also who's starting the game is almost always an indication of who the coach trusts the most. And Reed Shepherd has not been as dominant or as that stretch he had there where it looked like he might be the best player in the SEC, even though he's coming off the bench. He's fallen off production wise, but his minutes are also. He played 15 minutes in this game, and Reed Shepherd's a guy who is going to be a lottery pick in this draft, and it is a very, very weak draft. I'm not saying he should start, but if Justin Edwards is starting over him and Reed Shepherd was still playing like 25, 30 minutes a game, then this isn't really a problem. I am a little confused why Reed Shepherd isn't getting. Like, I don't understand how he plays 15 minutes in this game. And again, he did not have a good game. It's not like he was lighting it up and Cal is, pulling his hot hand off the court and putting him on the bench. That's just stuff that makes me scratch my head a little bit because I think when things were going well for Kentucky this year, Dillingham and Shepherd off the bench just felt so right because it felt like two guys that were buying in. But I want to make sure John Calipari's still buying into them and still giving them enough space, enough time, enough whatever to cook because I think those two dudes are very, very good. But, yeah, I'm not panicking. I'm not worrying. There's some stuff on the horizon. There's some cracks in the dam that we're paying attention to. And these next 6 games, great opportunity to patch up those cracks, and we move forward, and we're back on the Kentucky bandwagon. But, yeah, rough game at South Carolina for sure. Shout out to South Carolina, though. This was not stunning. This should not be treated as like a stunning, where did this come from type upset. South Carolina should be ranked, and hopefully next AP poll they will be. Auburn-Bama, which happened last night, I said it at the top. This is a rivalry game that I'm very much getting into as a Northerner, as a guy who has not cared much about SEC basketball outside of Kentucky or your Florida or your Tennessee teams here and there, whatever else. Auburn and Alabama are two programs that frankly have been irrelevant to me most of my life. There have been times where they've popped in here or there. Auburn had some good teams, Chris Porter back in the day. I think Bama had I think they were ranked number 1 with Mo Williams in 2003 at one point. So they've had their moments as programs, but I've generally not cared about either program. And to watch that game last night and be completely locked in on this rivalry, it is very cool, and I think it's awesome for the sport to have two massive football fan bases care this much about a basketball game. So that part I did love. I love the atmosphere inside Coleman Coliseum. Including the "fuck you Auburn" chants. I don't hate Auburn, but like I love that they do. That's good for college. I'm pro telling your rivals "fuck you." That's something that I'm pro. TJ, is that controversial?
No, it's also a big thing with like the conference realignment and stuff to make sure that there are still rivalries to look forward to, especially if like we don't know what's happening with the ACC and the rivalries there. Like, I think it's safe to assume that these schools are going to play each other for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and I kind of said it when IU played Purdue, and I was upset about Purdue beating the hell out of IU, and less that Purdue won, and more just like I was excited that the rivalry had some juice to it, and they just completely extinguished all of that. I think college basketball is looking for more rivalries right now. I think that's we as a college basketball public are in the market for some heated rivalries, and last night was fucking awesome. There was cheap shots and a lot of passion, a lot of not just from the fans, but the a lot of screenshot Twitter and slow-mo replay Twitter was on fire with did he stomp on his hand and look at this foul and was this cheat and I it's annoying as hell. I do think it's annoying as hell, but I think it's ultimately good for the sport that you have two fan bases that care that much. As for the game itself, I won't lie, and I wish I could, but I'm not going to lie. I kind of do hate watching Alabama basketball. I'm at the point in my life where I did not think last night was a good game. It was a close game. It was a rivalry game. It was it checked a lot of boxes, but I cannot. I think I'm over the just jack up a 3 2 seconds into the shot clock and beat them with math, which is Nate Oates' whole approach. I don't know. It makes for a brutal watch. That game was sloppy as hell. Tons of terrible shots, terrible passes, some good defense, I suppose. And every so often there are highlight plays. If you clip it up and all the best moments, Mark Sears like pulling up for 3, Rylan Griffin, like dudes hit shots. They do hit tough shots, but the reason they hit tough shots is because every single guy on the floor for Bama and then by extension Auburn, because Auburn's like, we're fine getting up and down too. They all seem to have ultra green lights, which kind of takes away the purpose of the tough shot. Like guys hitting tough shots used to mean something because it was like if that shot doesn't go in, his ass is getting pulled, he's getting thrown on the bench. But he hit it. Damn, that's big time. Now you watch Bama, all they do is just throw up tough shots, and they'll go in and they won the game. And I understand that's their system, but I get the strategy. I'm not confused as to why they're doing this. I'm not saying it's stupid. I don't think it's smart at the college level. I think the reason it's worked in the past is because you've had guys like Brandon Miller, you've had guys like Herbert Jones, who have been great for Bama. Like these are NBA players that are incredible college basketball players. And I don't think it's the system that makes them good or the team good that they were on. I think it's the fact that you have fucking NBA players on your team leading you. That's why you were so good. So anyway, I don't know. This is probably a me problem. College basketball is unwatchable to a lot of people. And I think Bama, the reason I bring it up is this. The college basketball across the country as a whole is bad to a lot of people. A lot of just, clunky offense. A lot of unskilled players that are scared to shoot, or when they do shoot, a lot of it's just sloppy. It looks sloppy to a lot of people, and I think Bama is Nate Oates' Alabama era, where he's running and gunning, and they're shooting a ton of threes, and he's giving all of his players green light. I think in an ideal world, you can point to that and say, thank God we have that, because watching, say, a Virginia, watching, say, an Indiana this year, watching, say, Rutgers, TJ, when, Rutgers was at their worst. This is the corollary to that, which is we're seeing points on the board. We're seeing team getting up and down. They're playing an NBA style of basketball. This is awesome. I love watching this. I do, again, when it's good, when it's Brandon Miller and Herb Jones, like that's fun. That's good. But yeah, this year it's just like, I don't see that. I watch basketball because I want to watch teams attack defenses and figure out how to get the best shots and all that, which doesn't mean using every second of the shot clock. It just means like working the ball for a good shot. And if it does come 3 seconds into the shot clock, sure, take it. But this Bama team is at a point where I really don't enjoy watching them. But kudos to them for pulling off the win. I think ultimately both of these teams are going to be fine. Like Auburn, I've had my questions about, like they don't have like the marquee big time win that they can point to and say we belong at the adult elite table of this season of college basketball. They don't really have that. But I don't think losing to Bama is an aha moment where I'm like, see, knew you weren't for real. I think Bama is good. They have a lot of talent. I think Auburn will be fine too. They couldn't hit shit last night. I don't think they are elite. I think ultimately they're like a step below, but whatever. Aiden Holloway's fun. Janai Broom's fun. The SEC is going to beat itself up anyway, so like maybe Auburn does still win a share of the conference. I think all of that is still in play. I think the Sweet 16 is still in play, but Auburn was beating the snot out of every team they were playing, and I don't necessarily think that's the team that they are. I don't expect Auburn to rip through. I don't think Auburn's a team that's like going to rip through the rest of their schedule, and this game against Bama was just a matter of it being a rivalry game where they just didn't play their best game, and now they'll get back to like being a dominant elite team. I don't really see that with this team, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Sweet 16 is good. They're going to compete for the SEC championship. That is by every measure a very good season, and that's where I think Auburn will end up. But yeah, I don't know. Bama will be fine, and I'm sure Bama fans will hate that I don't enjoy watching their team play. But yeah, that's just me getting old. That's just me getting like I think Alabama is like basketball for people with ADD, and I don't have ADD, so I'm just like, what the fuck is going on out on this court? Just dudes bombing threes like crazy. It's wild to watch, and like I said, when the talent is there, I don't mind it as much. But I don't think this team is. I think Mark Sears is good, and Griffith's good, and Grant Nelson, who didn't really play particularly well, but I see the vision. All right, I get the whole thing. It's just I don't think this team is that good to be playing that way. And but unfortunately, that's the system. That's the culture, and so they have to. Lastly, Illinois Northwestern. I don't know. Like I guess I don't need to belabor. We got to get to the fraud power rankings. But Illinois Northwestern, like I said at the top, has wins over Illinois, Purdue, Michigan State, and Dayton. They've also lost to Chicago State. Without that loss, without losing to Chicago State, Northwestern's probably like 15 to 20 range in the polls right now. Good team. Boo Buie is that dude, man. He's been crazy, especially in clutch situations. But I think Brooks Barnhizer is really the difference. How do I say this? Because I don't want to say like Barnhizer's the reason they're winning these games. It's not. It's Boo Buie. But without Barnhizer, it's more of, I think it's Boo Buie being heroic in a losing effort. And Barnhizer's the unheralded guy. He's made a huge leap for Northwestern. They lost some dudes from last year, and I think there's a belief that the program would take a step back. And Boo Buie has brought it, and he's playing at certainly at an all Big Ten level, if not an All American level. But I think guys like Brooks Barnhizer stepping up are the reason that Northwestern is not taking a step back. Because I think otherwise, without him playing as well as he's been playing, Northwestern is just a case of like a Boo Buie All-American vehicle, But like Northwestern's not actually winning this game, but Boo Buie's averaging like 25 a game, and we're all talking about how on any given night he could take down giants, but then they're actually not a good team. They are a very good team. The Chicago State loss continues to baffle. No idea how that happened. Chicago State's better than they were, but it's still Chicago State. Very, very bad loss. Again, without that loss, Northwestern is looking really good. Their resume is looking really good, and there are high hopes in Evanston. I think they're pretty secure right now. A lot of basketball left to be played. Pretty secure right now in the NCAA tournament, I would say. And that really is the goal in Northwestern. I mean, this is a program that 7 years ago, is it now? 8 years ago? 5 years ago? What is time anymore? Had never even made an NCAA tournament. Now this is going to be their third in however many years. So, kudos to Northwestern. I don't think losing at Northwestern is a bad thing. That's the reality of the modern Big Ten, is that losing at Northwestern, losing at Nebraska are not bad losses. And yet men of a certain age see their basketball teams going to Lincoln and going to Evanston and lose, and they're like, what the fuck is wrong with our team? Because, listen, Northwestern and Nebraska for a very long time have not been good, but those are two programs that have taken down Purdue. The only two teams that beat Purdue has beaten basically every good team in college basketball this year, but they did lose at Northwestern and they did lose at Nebraska. So anyway, enough of that. Let's do fraud power rankings. Let's get into it. It's been a while since we've done these. I'm trying to remember the last. I think Roan was number one, if I remember right. That's how long ago it was. And I don't even remember what for.
Jeff was on it too, I think.
Jeff was on it. Jeff D. Lowe made an appearance. Who knows what for?
He might be on this one, no?
Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. Has Jeff D. Lowe done anything to piss me off recently? I don't know. We'll see. At number 5 on the fraud power rankings, the Memphis Tigers. Memphis has now lost 2 in a row. They started 15-2, got ranked all the way up in the top 10, which was always erroneous. It was always a reach. It never really quite made sense. I don't want to put it all on Naquan Tomlin, but Tomlin comes over from Kansas State. He's played, I think, 8 games, and that's kind of like Memphis hasn't been world beaters all season. They've won their games. We've talked about it on the show. They continue to win, which is the point of the game. Credit to them, but they do not look particularly great in these wins, and they're playing lesser competition and winning by very, very small margins. And, at the end of the day, they are winning. But I think most reasonable minds were observing this saying, all right, at some point the luck's going to run out and they're going to come back down to earth. The pollsters didn't see it that way. They had him all the way up in the top 10. And then Naquan Tomlin, when he gets on the team, since then they beat Vanderbilt by 2, a bad Vanderbilt team. They beat Austin Peay by 11, whatever. Don't care about that one. Tulsa's not great. They won by 3. SMU, they won by 3. A dreadful UTSA team took them to overtime at home. They did smoke Wichita State on the road. Credit to them, but also Wichita State is absolutely terrible. And then since then, they've lost 2 straight. They've now lost to South Florida at home and just lost at Tulane. And that's where Memphis is at. Caleb Mills is out for the year. That hurts him too. Like, that correlates with Naquan Tomlin coming in, and I'm not putting all the blame on everyone, but, you see a correlation. It's hard not to, like, think, I wonder what happened there. You get kicked off one team and you join another, and then suddenly that team doesn't play that well. I think also with Memphis, a lot of their big early season wins have lost their luster. They beat Virginia. They beat Clemson when Clemson was rolling there, and it felt like Clemson could maybe win the ACC. They beat Texas A&M, who I've been holding out hope is going to figure it out. And all 3 of those teams could end up in the NCAA tournament, but when those are your 3 big wins, I think when they happened, they felt like a lot bigger deal than they really are now. And as you look back on them, like, it's not really that impressive to beat those 3. So yeah, I think Memphis is going to be going to be an okay basketball team. I think number 10 was always absurd, and that's why they're number 5 on the fraud power rankings. David Jones can light it up. Quinterly can too on a good day. But they had no business being ranked 10th. That was insane in the moment, and it's even more insane now that they've lost 2 in a row. Number 4 on the fraud power rankings this week, Luka Doncic. So I'm trying to make sense of how this happened. That Luka, I don't get how the NBA got to this point where dudes can just eject fans. This is far from the first instance of this. Was it Russell Westbrook that was who are the instances that come to mind? Is Russell Westbrook?
I feel like
LeBron
may
do
have
it?
done this. Wasn't there an instance where somebody fell onto an owner or something? Did they get ejected?
Oh yeah, that does feel.
This definitely happens often.
This happens often, and it never makes sense when it does happen. And I think, like, in the past when it's happened, I've tried to be fair, where I'm like, I don't know what they're saying, and I don't know, what's going on. Did a fan throw something on the court? What the hell's going on here? But last night, Luka Doncic has a Suns fan ejected from a Dallas Mavericks home game, I believe, right? It was a home game for the Mavs. That in and of itself to me is crazy, that you can just like you're playing in front of your home crowd, so there's like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 Suns fans in the crowd that are yelling shit at you, but for the vast majority of the people there are supporting you, so you'd think that would drown it out. But Luka, I had a couple problems with it. One, the guy apparently just said, "Luka, you're tired. Get your ass on the treadmill," which I would argue is not even heckling. That's like encouragement. That's like trying to help Luka, because that is the number one thing holding him back, is that he's never really been in great shape. That's just a tit. Like, if a trainer says that to him, guys pay people thousands of dollars to tell them things like that, And this guy was saying it for free, so that one was a little weird to me. And number 2, the timing of it, that Luka says this guy was heckling him all game, and he didn't have a problem with it until the third quarter, when the Mavs enter the second half up by 1. They leave the third quarter down by 22. And somewhere along the line is when Luka decided it's time for that guy to go. It's hard not to think that he's just projecting his own problems onto this man. That, like, this guy is actually not really that big of a deal. It's just Luka's in his own head that the Mavs are playing like shit, and he had this guy tossed. An all-time soft move. And then in the post-game press conference, he gets asked about it. I don't know the reporter that asked him about it. Maybe he does have a history with him. Maybe this reporter does stink. I don't know. But in that one isolated clip where the guy's just like, what did that fan say to you that made you turn to security and say, toss this guy out? Luka lashes out at the reporter. And you're just like, how soft can you be for all of these check marks? So yeah, I put Luka Doncic at number 4. And on top of all this, as a reminder, Luka was a guy that was not the number 1 pick, but when he came into the NBA, he was there were split contingents on how good he would be, and the people that were very pro Luka love reminding the teams that did not draft Luka how stupid they were, that the Suns took DeAndre Ayton and the Kings took Marvin Bagley, and Luka technically went 3rd, but the Hawks had that pick, so Trae Young, taking Trae Young makes the Hawks very stupid too. You had a chance to take Luka Doncic. How could you not take Luka Doncic? Luka Doncic is one of the top 5 players in the league. Luka's awesome. Luka is very much a great basketball player. I enjoy watching him play. He does complain to the refs at a very, very high rate. But we're in year 6 of the Luka Doncic era of the NBA. He's won 2 playoff series, so he had the 1 year where they made it to the Western Finals. The Warriors made quick work of them. He did beat the Suns in Game 7. The Mavs beat the Suns in Game 7. They beat the hell out of the Suns. That's where we got the Chris Paul hits the big 3 to cut the lead to 43 meme. They did do that, but he's had 1 season where he's had any sort of playoff success as a team. The Mavs are also currently 8th place in the West. They're not really a title contender this year. I know Kyrie's on the team and Luka's on the team, and you always have a chance when you have 2 guys like that. But they're not going to win the title this year or come anywhere close to it. It doesn't seem like. I just wonder at what point will Luka start getting like serious criticism from NBA people, because like if this was this guy was talked about as one of the most like he won EuroLeague MVP when he was 19, and he comes into the league like as accomplished as anybody we've ever seen, and really. From my perspective, he hasn't. He every single year in the league, other than his rookie year, he's been number 1 or number 2 in usage rate. So basically, to me, his entire career has just basically been the Mavs give him the ball every fucking time down the floor, let him do whatever he wants. He is great. He's awesome. Not saying he's not, but it's very easy for NBA players to put up a ton of numbers when you have the ball in your hands every single second you're on the court. That's kind of what his career has been to me. Is that he's a guy that will put up 42. And 17 assists and 13 rebounds. But the Mavs have not been serious championship contenders at any point in his career. And I'm just curious at what point does that become a problem to NBA people?
To me, it almost seems like a guy that doesn't like playing in the NBA. Like, I know that he like plays video games and stuff. It seems like he'd rather be doing anything but playing in the NBA when he complains about stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's super soft. Like, this doesn't happen unless you're soft.
Yeah, that probably would check out. I mean, I do enjoy watching him play, and I do think he's super talented. I'm not saying he's not. If you want to call him top 5 in the league, be my guest. Like, I'm not going to fight you on that. But I just think at a certain point, when I really stop and think about like my memories of watching Luka Doncic these past 6 years. They're all regular season games. He bitches to the refs a lot, and he always has the ball in his hands at every second of every offensive possession. And then he does nothing in the playoffs. And for a guy like Joel Embiid, who's won the MVP last year and is going to win it again this year, he gets ripped apart. I mean, he scored 70 points in a game, and that was a lot of people's first thought was like, yeah, we'll do it in the playoffs. Like, this doesn't – who cares? Do it in the playoffs. And I know Luka has made it to the Western Conference Finals. He's made it further than Joel Embiid technically, but I mean, this guy hasn't been great in the playoffs either. He just I don't know. And then on top of it, he's bitching to refs. He's now getting guys tossed from games. I don't know. I think it's the Luka Doncic honeymoon for me is coming to an end, and I would like to see him earn his reputation as a guy who can bitch at the refs at all times and get guys tossed. Because that's the thing is like the guys who are getting guys tossed from games. Russell Westbrook is won MVP and I get that a lot of people hate Russ, but like I don't know, he's at least won an MVP. LeBron James getting guys tossed again, bitch move, but like he is LeBron James. Yeah, at some point Luka's got to back up this reputation he has with something other than just like look at another night in a regular season game where I did something awesome, which is good, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm just kind of over the whole that whole experience with him. Number 3 on the fraud power rankings this week, Coleman Coliseum, the Alabama-Auburn game. As I talked about earlier, was a great rivalry. Was a close game, came down to the wire. Congrats to Bama on winning the. I don't know what the basketball version is called. I imagine you can't call it the Iron Bowl, the Iron Ball. I don't know. I don't know what they call it. Bama wins, but this game was marred by controversy, and by controversy, I mean the Coleman Coliseum lights not turning back on, and I'm sitting there for 20 minutes having to listen to Jay Williams interview Jalen Milroe about God knows what, asking him whether Texas football is back, basically, and I'm like screaming at the TV, can we please, for the love of God, get these fucking lights back on because I can't take this anymore. Jay Williams is... I don't know what happened, TJ. I've watched a lot of shitty college basketball commentators in my life, and I do my best to just like not let them bother me. There's something about Jay Will that I just like cannot stand. I can't stand. I cannot stand his commentary. He's like so. He is the definite. Do kids still say extra? Is that
Sure.
a thing? Like that's what comes to mind when I watch Jay Will call games and listen to him. He's just like, oh my god. I don't know. Again, it's a me problem, but like, I can't stand it. I can't stand it at all. And the lights are out in this game for like 20 minutes. They start the game. I think Janai Broome hits a three, and then everybody realizes the lights are off. They stopped the game, and I thought it was going to be like a 10-second fix. It was not. It went on forever. They restart the game, and then there's another point during the game where the shot clock buzzer light behind the backboard turns on, and they have to pause the game again to turn that off. This shouldn't be happening. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This should not happen. This should not happen in Alabama. And Alabama, you should fix your lights so this doesn't happen again. Okay? So, do we have a deal? Cool. Thank you. Coleman Coliseum, number 3 on the Fraud Power Rankings. Number 2, we're getting juicy now because we're heating up, and now it's time to lock in on the Fraud Power Rankings. Number 2 is college basketball media as a whole. I will include myself in this, although not in the first, because this is a two-parter. Not in the first part. I will include myself in the second part. First of all, I'm throwing college basketball media on number 2 for the handling of the Caton Clark situation. I'm not mentioning anyone by name, but there were a lot of blue check marks, I guess, how we used to call blue check mark, the old version of what, I don't know how the fuck Twitter works anymore. You know who I'm talking about, the media type people. A lot of these anti-court storming people bringing their nonsensical opinions to this Caitlin Clark situation that was very quickly refuted with other angles and you know should have been a non-story from the jump. Turned into like we're no longer living in a reality. We're living in a hypothetical world where Caitlin Clark was trampled by a pack of wildebeest, and her father came to save her, and then they were climbing up a cliff, and she had to watch her father fall into the canyon of wildebeest again. Like I think I saw someone tweet that could have happened with this court storming at Ohio State. That pissed me off, and it wasn't just because it was Ohio State. It was just because like this happens all the time with the court storming and it's the most exhausting thing that happens in college basketball is the anti-court storming people so desperately want to see somebody get hurt so they can just basically say I was right, and it's just not happening. So that's very, very annoying. Shame on it wasn't all of the media, but there were a lot of media people that were rushing to judgment, and obviously 0 of them have walked it back because that's how it works. And it no longer becomes about what actually happened. It's about what could have happened. And they're still right and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, the bigger point I want to make, and I'll include myself in this part B, this idea that there are no stars in college basketball is crazy to me. After watching R.J. Davis' game against Wake Forest, it dawned on me that the fact that this keeps getting parroted out there is like the one of college basketball's problems is that there are no stars. First of all, we brought back the National Player of the Year. He's going to win it again. He's been dominant. He's playing for maybe the best team in the country that lost to a 16 seed and has a national title aspirations. And running back the whole Virginia story is very much in play for Purdue. You would think that is that Zach Edey, whether you like him, you don't, you think he's talented, he's not, wherever he is on your mock draft, whatever. Zach Edey is a face that people know. He's a name that people know. I feel like he would qualify as a star. But if Zach Edey is not a star, this idea that there are no stars in college basketball that the sport can latch onto, I understand why it's a talking point because this draft kind of sucks. And if you're looking at it from an NBA perspective, yeah, it does hurt to have Zach Edey be the face of the sport because Zach Edey is not a surefire NBA guy. And this freshman class is not that good, and the draft is really weak. All of these things are true, but I don't know how R.J. Davis isn't the obvious answer for a star. I mean, he's a 4-year senior at a blue blood school that played in a national championship, started in a national championship, was his team's leading scorer in a national championship. He had a great game against Duke in the Final Four as well, which is a game that 10 trillion people watched. he checks a lot of boxes for me. He at a time when everyone's bitching about how the problem with college basketball is guys transferring all over the place and you can't keep track of who's on which team. He's been at the same school for 4 years, and again, this is not just any school. This is North Carolina. This is one of the elite college basketball programs that always matter. That will, even when North Carolina's bad, people still care about their games, and people will still watch North Carolina games. He is that dude for the North Carolina Tar Heels. He's averaging 21 points a game. He's shooting 45% from the field. He's shooting 42% from three. He's shooting 94% from the free throw line. He's like 5'11", 6 foot tall. He's got a great name. I don't know what else we need. He's got the hair. I don't know, like, what the branding is all there. He's, like I said, he's a senior. So if your point of view is that one and done is ruining the game, well, he's a senior. He's been around for a while. The continuity's there. Transfer portal's ruining the game. Well, he's been there for 4 years as well. This isn't a deal of a guy playing at like a mid-major or small school that's not on TV a lot either. He's on TV all the time. He has monster games all the time. Just dropped 36 against Wake Forest on Monday, 23 in the second half, and this wasn't just like a deal where he's stat padding in a game that's not particularly close or they didn't need him to be great or anything else. Carolina was down 1 at halftime. Wake Forest is a good team. They're down 1 at half. RJ Davis had 13 in the first half. He was not fully carrying them, but he was playing well and was certainly leading the offense in the first half. And then he comes down the second half, drops 23, and Carolina pulls away. It was an incredible basketball game. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do, what the rest of the media is supposed to do, but we failed as an entity not making RJ Davis be a star. He should absolutely be a star in any other circumstance. To have a guy who led the North Carolina Tar Heels in a national championship game. Last year, Carolina is the preseason number one, and I get it. Like the season did not go well last year, but that's even more reason to get behind what RJ Davis is doing right now. Is that they get to the top, they almost win a national championship. They're up by like 20. I don't even remember how much they were. Was it 20? They were up by a ton on Kansas at halftime. They kind of choke it away. They really, the reality is they just ran out of gas. They were running on fumes to begin with, and that Kansas team had way more horses than Carolina did. And Armando Bacot rolled his ankle in that game. And but whatever, Carolina was right there, almost won a national championship. They come back the next year. They're ranked number one. The season takes a nosedive. And then now they're back up on top because Caleb Love leaves, and they bring in Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan and some other and Cadeau, and they're back to being a great basketball team. I feel like that's a great story. And RJ Davis is playing out of his mind, and he's doing it consistently. He's not really been a streaky scorer. He's not a guy that's we were talking about Reed Sheppard earlier with the South Carolina game. Reed Sheppard has had insane games where I've come sat in this chair and recorded shows and just like slobbered all over myself talking about how good Reed Sheppard is, and then he's also like had games where he hasn't scored 3 points, scored whatever, like he's had stinker games too. RJ Davis isn't really doing that. RJ Davis is bringing it every single night for Carolina. They're winning. They are undefeated on the road. I don't know. I had that realization as I was watching him go nuts against Wake Forest. I was like, this dude should be a star at the college level. But I think it ultimately just boils. I think when people talk about stars in college basketball, they're just talking about NBA prospects. And I do hate that because that's not how it should work. And the rift between college basketball and NBA will send me to an early grave. I hate that that's where we're at. That like unless a guy is going to be a franchise savior at the NBA level, I don't care about him in college. When what RJ Davis is doing right now in North Carolina if you are a fan of the sport of basketball, you should very much care about it. He's been incredible. The team is very much legit. Any part of you that's waiting for the what happened last year where Carolina was number one, but then they showed their true colors and lost a ton of games, and you're thinking that that's going to happen again this year. I don't think it is. I think this team is very clearly legit. Yes, they're going to lose between now and the end of the season. They'll probably lose to an unranked team. A lot of that's been going around in college basketball, but they are very much legit. They are very much a national championship contender. And RJ Davis, I think as great as Zach Edey has been, and he will win the award, and I don't mean to say RJ Davis is better. I'm very close to wanting to have the conversation. I'm not arguing RJ Davis should win over Zach Edey, but I am very close to wanting to at least just talk about it. I just want to talk about it. And yeah, we're going to come to the conclusion that it's Zach Edey, but can we at least talk about it just so we have it all? Can we just like at least all type up our notes and put them somewhere for posterity's sake? Like, can we do that at least? I'm getting very close to that with RJ Davis, where it's like I know he's not going to win the award, but he's so fun to watch, and to do it at his size and to do it after the season they had last year and all of that. Again, it's not all him. It's not like they lost Caleb Love and that was the problem and now everything's fine. But, I can't say enough good things about how good RJ Davis has been. And the fact that he's not a star is very, very sad. And I want to do whatever I can to make sure that he becomes a star. But as it turns out, I don't really know what I can do. All right, number 1 on the fraud power rankings. I need a swig of water. Number 1 on the fraud power rankings is Jeff D'Lo. It had to be done. The last time we did this, Jeff D'Lo was number 5, and I felt a little guilty. And if I remember right, TJ, it was because Jeff said he was going to come on the show, and then he snubbed us.
Yes.
And
2 shows.
That's right. Yeah,
show.
That's right. 2 shows. He snubbed us on 2 shows. And I talked to Jeff afterwards, and he was like, I didn't know you actually wanted me, and it was a misunderstanding, miscommunication, whatever. So I didn't think too much of it. But what has transpired in this dozen trivia drama, the trade where I brought Kirk Minahan to Team Smockin in exchange for Mincy because Mincy blew the game in the most Mincy fashion possible that we had played the night before. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll do my best to get you up to speed, but also I don't know how I'm going to do that. No, I was about to just do the bullet points, but I don't know if that's going to even work. But yeah, Jeff. So I didn't think anything of it the last time when he no-showed. He snubbed me twice. Then said he was going to come on the shows. Didn't come on the shows. Whatever. It's a misunderstanding. But this new thing, it doesn't sit well with me, TJ. He is being played like a fiddle by Dave and Kirk. I understand that. Dave and Kirk are far scarier to him than I am. Yeah. I'm a nice guy. I have a moral compass. So, I can talk to Jeff and not shout at him and tell him that I'm going to kill his family or whatever else. Right. I just, I just voice my displeasure and go about my life. So obviously he walks all over me in a way he doesn't those 2 guys. He's way more terrified of those 2 guys than he is me. But that's exactly the problem, is that Jeff D'Lo now has a pattern of behavior of taking me for granted, of booking himself on my shows and no-showing, of a situation here at the Dozen where I trade Mincy for Kirk Minahan, and Jeff says the trade's official. He puts out the graphic, says it's a done deal, but then he goes back and vetoes the trade after the fact because Dave has a problem with the rules, doesn't think the trade should go through. I broke no rules, TJ. There were no rules broken. So if you don't like the rule, this seems to make the most sense to me. If you didn't like the rule, which it is an insane rule, it does not make sense that a captain can trade himself from a team to another team.
Right.
All of that tracks. All of that logic tracks. Put in the rule after the trade goes through, and away we go. Then let that be the Kirk/Titus rule. That like you can't do that anymore. But why am I being punished for breaking a rule that didn't even exist?
Yeah.
That's the part that doesn't sit well with me. And the reason is because Jeff D'Lo is a spineless commissioner. That's what it is. And he, this idea that Dave and Kirk wasn't even really whining that much. Kirk was just like, I'll solve the problem by just going back to the team and everything will be fine. Dave was the one that had the problem with it. And I get that Dave is all of our bosses, but I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. The integrity of the league has been called into question. I got to a point where I was like, once I went on Wake Up Mincy, and Kirk got fooled by my appearance on Wake Up Mincy.
His producer set you up to fail with that.
The producer set me up.
His producer showed like 1/5 of that clip.
Yeah,
and then your locker room is in shambles as a result.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that I got to the point where I was like, maybe Kirk on our team's not a great idea. Like when Kirk texts Team Smock and fuck off, it's kind of hard to come back from that.
Yeah.
So like he watches Wake Up Mincy and is like, he just texted the group fuck off, and I was like, all right, well I I guess we're gonna probably not move forward with Kirk on the team. But the trade went through, TJ, and at that point, I was in a position where I was like, all right, well, I have the best trivia player in the league on my team. I'm the captain of the team. Kirk said as much when he joined the team. He's like, Titus is the captain. I just won off of Team Minahan. I thought in a fair and just world, in a fair and just league run by a commissioner who knows what he's doing, I would have the opportunity to use Kirk as a trade asset, and I would then flip Kirk for somebody else, and I would be able to backfill my team, and I would have a complete team, and me executing this trade, Kirk for Mincy, I would not be punished for this. As it turns out, Team Smock was the only team that was punished. The team that pulled off the most savvy move in the history of the dozen, at the end of the day, was the team that was punished for this, and it makes zero sense, and that is why Jeff D'Lo is number 1 on the fraud power rankings. I am now in a position where I'm questioning whether I even want to continue doing the dozen, because all this drama is just too much for me. I just want to answer questions. I didn't want to get involved in all this, but then I had an opportunity to trade Mincy for Kirk. I was like, yeah, let's do it, and I get chewed up and spit out by Jeff D'Lo because he just walks all over me. He has zero respect for me whatsoever because I'm too nice of a guy. Do I just have to be more of an asshole to him? Is that it? He's still texting me, like, even last night I was on the phone with him all night, like, telling him, like, I have a problem with this. I wasn't yelling at him. I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, it doesn't seem like it's fair that, we made a great deal. Now all of a sudden I have to go figure out who my third teammate is, and now you're putting Mincy back on my team, and we just traded him. Mincy's pissed off at us. Kinjack hates Mincy. Mincy hates Kinjack. I'm stuck in the middle. I don't know what the hell's going on. All I know is I pulled off a great trade, and I'm getting punished for it. And then I had all that conversation with him. He's still like just texting me about mid-major college basketball. He's still like buddy with me in that regard. And I don't know what to do, TJ, because I want to be a nice guy. I like Jeff in theory. But boy, he's just walking all over me. He's walking all over me, and something has to be done. But I don't know how much leverage I have. I don't like if I quit the dozen, then I'm just a little bitch.
I don't think you have any. He's kind of put you in a position now where your own team doesn't trust you probably because you just tried to trade them back and forth. So the next time you play, your team chemistry is going to be all off.
Yep.
The rest of the league looks at you as somebody that's like looking to sabotage other teams, perhaps.
I'm an agent of chaos somehow. Yeah.
Who knows how Kirk and his audience feel about this entire situation from a perspective of where you stand? Because again, their producer played 1 minute of a 5-minute clip and made it seem like you were trying to trade Kirk back when the entire point of that clip was that you were doing a loophole to get him to stay on your team.
Yeah, I was fucking with Mincy. As it turns out, I was. That must be a new concept to some
Fucking
people that
with
work
Mincy,
here.
yeah.
But fucking with Mincy is
It's a good bit.
It's something I came up with on the drive in to wake up Mincy.
It's like everybody has like a gun drawn at you.
Yeah,
including yourself.
Right.
At yourself.
Yeah, and like part of me is like, I should just quit the dozen because I'm in too deep now and I don't know how to salvage this. But then I realize if I did, I just look like a huge bitch that like I was the loser and I'm taking my ball and going home, which how was Dave not taking his ball and go? Like that was literally what happened. Dave took his ball and went home. It's just I'm not the guy who started this whole company and have the ability to fire Jeff D'Lo. So I guess that's the difference. But this is the world we live in. Jeff D'Lo just walking all over me. No respect.
You're the catalyst in the league though, which is an interesting position to be in. So you could just take the agent of chaos route, and make another trade.
When the reality is, I was driving home after work, and I just got a phone call from I don't know if it was Jeff or Kinjack, and they were just like, "Hey, Kirk wants to trade himself off Minahan to our team. What do you think?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I said the same thing I said when Jeff and Kinjack wanted to kick Donnie to the curb, which I did agree to, but I agreed to it because I was just like, I don't care. Like they called me and they're like, Mincy's back at the company. He needs a trivia team. Donnie travels a lot. We had problems at times, like trying to figure out where in the world Donnie was so we could like come up with a time that was reasonable for him to call into the dozen, all that. So I got asked, like, would you be okay with adding Mincy and getting rid of Donnie? And I was under the impression that Donnie was hip to this. So I was just like, I don't care, whatever. And then they did it, and Donnie felt betrayed and whatever. And then that left a really bad taste in my mouth because I should have double-checked with Donnie. So then this one, I thought was like funny. It would be good content. I had Mincy on Mostly Sports, told him why we were traded. I didn't do it to twist the knife. I did it just because I thought it'd be fun content. I didn't care. I don't care about trades. I just want to sit down and answer questions, TJ. And somehow I have positioned myself as the number one agent of chaos in this league. And now it took talking it out with you to realize I'm just Jeff D'Lo's puppet.
Yep.
That's all it is. Jeff D'Lo is the real agent of chaos, and I'm his puppet because I'm a nice guy, and he knows he can walk all over me. And that's why he's number one on the fraud power rankings. There.
Deservingly so.
Deservingly so. At number 0 on the fraud power rankings, which is a step above number 1, first time in fraud power rankings history that we are going above number 1, the super tier of the fraud power rankings.
Wow.
Is Cody.
Yeah.
Is junior editor Cody, Captain Ferdinand. Do you have an opening statement on what happened today? Would you like to tell the people what happened? You want me to break down what happened?
I'll say this. The office needed a hero, a lunch savant, if you will, a voice for the hungry. I thought, why not me?
Yeah.
But then, after, a week of delivering the best scoops that you've ever seen, the office turned on me. A group of my peers set me up.
Okay.
0 people know what.
Yeah. What the hell is going on here?
Building the stage for you.
Okay.
For you to go.
Okay. For me to go. All right. So Cody has for the whole month of January, we didn't do a company holiday party in December, and in lieu of that, Dan Big Cat has been buying lunch. Not really Big Cat, but the money that was supposed to go to the holiday party has instead gone towards buying lunch for the entire office every weekday working day in January. So we're getting free lunches every day in January. Somewhere along the line, Cody became the scoops guy, and that became his lane where he's like, because this became a problem. Like, we would get done doing Mostly Sports at 10:30. I got to do the yak at noon. I'm wondering if lunch doesn't get here by 11:30, like, I don't know if I have enough time to eat and still get to the yak. And like the first couple lunches, I was like, do I go with the free lunch? Do I just order my own lunch and let the rest of the office have the free lunch? But I'm working on a tight schedule, so I kind of need to make sure that everything is in line with what I've got going on. So Cody steps up and he's like, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the scoop where I'm going to know what we're having every day. So that way, Brandon's the same way, by the way. Brandon loves having his Chick-fil-A, and it's going to take like a big free lunch for him to accept the lunch instead of the Chick-fil-A. So, this is a valuable thing that Cody was doing for us. He would tell us every day we get done with Mostly Sports, we go to Cody, we'd be like, what are we getting for lunch? Because if it wasn't something I wanted, I would order my own lunch. And for, I would say, a week and a half, you were doing a great job.
7 for 8.
Well,
it's 88%.
You were 7 for 7. And then today happened. Cody broke the news on Twitter that we were getting Chick-fil-A for lunch. And not only did we not get Chick-fil-A, we got nothing even kind of resembling Chick-fil-A. Yeah. Polar opposite of Chick-fil-A. We got salads.
Yeah.
We had fucking salads catered to us when we thought we were getting nuggies and
Maybe
waffle
I was
fries.
Doing everyone a favor.
So what happened?
I reach out to my source, as I do, and I get the scoop. Usually there's a lot of detail provided, a lot of inside info, and then the next day I'll go and put that out there.
Okay.
Today, it was late. Source was late. I got my scoop. Wasn't a lot of info. I was kind of feeling weird about it, but I was like, whatever. The people are going to be asking. I know once you come out of Mostly Sports, you're going to want to know. First thing Brandon did, come up to me. What's for lunch? Chick-fil-A. Cool. Loved it. Lunch comes. Scoop's wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone's turning to me. Chaos.
Yeah, but when I asked you had some doubt in your voice.
Yeah, because
I think it's
tough to
Chick-fil-A.
disappoint you.
Yeah, but why the doubt? How did you get privy to the doubt?
Because I kind of
before
thought
the
about it
salad
more.
Actually got here.
And I was looking at my source, and something seemed afoot.
Okay.
And so I had a sketchy feeling.
So do you understand why this is a problem?
Yeah, you can't be wrong on a scoop.
So are you out of the scoops game? Where do we pivot from here? How do we win back the trust of the? 'Cause
yeah.
The other thing, and if I'm being completely honest, I care less about, you fucking up the scoop and more that like you're my guy. You work on my 2 shows. This reflects poorly on me, And this could, like, people are gonna think this goes all the way to the top, just like the dozen shit. Where like, you know, I have to answer for this ultimately.
Right.
So I'm trying to think of a way that this isn't a stain on our reputation as a show. How do we get out of this?
Yeah, I think what the best course of action is to get a second source, double check.
So you're going to continue to scoop the lunches?
I think I have
forward.
to.
Okay.
I think it's, the people need to know.
Did you delete?
That's my question. Do the people need to know?
I mean, they asked. I mean, it was a direct order.
I thought I needed to know, but now when tomorrow comes and I ask you what's for lunch, it's just going to create more confusion. Now I don't know if I'm going to be able to trust it.
Yeah.
I was really planning on having the Chick-fil-A today.
Brandon still did.
Kind of fucked up my day. Yeah, Brandon still ordered the Chick-fil-A. Yeah, I don't know where we go from here. I don't know how we get the office back on our side, dude.
Maybe we hang a banner and just retire.
Hang a banner for what? We lost our last game. You got to win a chance. You got to go out on top to hang a banner.
Yeah.
We lost. We got embarrassed, dude. We got steamrolled in the biggest game of the year. This was huge.
We got saladed.
We got yeah, dude.
We got saladed.
I have one idea, but I don't know if I want to say it. We'll talk. We'll talk
right.
off air. But I think I have one path forward that can get.
There's a path.
Yeah, I mean, one thing working in your favor is Max fucked up lunch 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And ordered something that took.
That was
it was an
catastrophic.
hour and a half late.
Lunch has been tremendous content.
Oh, it's been incredible. The time between getting done with Mostly Sports and starting the Yak is low-key electric.
Yeah.
Because, between Cody Scoops and Nikki Smokes boxing everybody out to be first in line every day for lunch, it has been a content machine for sure. We'll talk off air though. I have one idea, but I don't know if I want to commit to it yet, so I don't want to say it on the show and you know, be beholden to it. All right, shout outs before we get out of here. The Saturday slate. Shout out to college basketball this weekend. We have Georgetown at Providence. That's the big one. Ed Cooley coming back to Providence. That's why Rough and Rowdy is at Providence tonight, or for those of you listening, last Thursday night. That's why it's in Providence. They're going to the game, but they're not going to the game now. Is that right? Like Dave said he was going. The whole reason they're doing Rough and Rowdy in Providence was to go to this game, but now
Pegasus is this weekend.
Yeah, so now he's not going anymore.
Go. It's also, is this game as high stakes
No.
as it once was thought to be? Like it will still be a intense environment, obviously, but Providence is what on the bubble.
Well, Bryce Hopkins
Georgetown
got
is
hurt.
not,
And that, I think I was excited to go because I thought Providence is going to win by 100, and they still might. But Bryce Hopkins being out changes things to where TJ, I don't want to say it, but like, what if Georgetown wins?
Ooh.
What if I had been?
Scenes.
Yeah. What if Georgetown wins?
And
so
Ed Cooley, what if Ed Cooley hangs his nuts on the truck?
Just two middle fingers.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
He'll probably lose and then cry to the reporters about people being having bad questions again.
Oh yeah, I forgot he did that.
I'll come with a good question next time.
I forgot he did that.
You mad, bro?
Don't be afraid to ask me the tough questions. That is kind of a genius way to handle it. Is that like you're like, I want you to be mean to me. Hit me as hard as you can.
It's almost like a Trumpism. It's just like somebody asks you a question, and you're just like, bad question. Next.
Yeah.
Ask a better question, maybe.
Ask a better question. Is that all you got?
Yeah.
That's obviously a big game. Less for the basketball, more for the extracurriculars. Kansas is going to Hilton Coliseum, which is not always worked out great for them in the past, but sometimes has. I don't know. Kansas is Kansas. They win a lot of basketball games, so it's not like they can't win on anywhere on the road. But that's always a fun game when Iowa State is good and Kansas comes to town. That's always a fun atmosphere at Hilton. That's going on Saturday. Clemson is going to Duke. Cameron Indoor Stadium. Pitt just won there, and Blake Hinson standing on the scores table. Clemson has cooled off a little bit. This is a big opportunity for Clemson to get their mojo back. Carolina going to Florida State. Florida State sneakily not ass. That's what I'd say about Florida State right now. That's the Florida State basketball status. Just sneakily not ass. And this is, again, a great opportunity for Florida State to inform the nation that they are sneakily not ass. Or make it no longer sneaky, I guess I should say. Like, we are loudly not ass. So that game's going on Saturday. We have JMU at App State. JMU has to win this game. This is JMU. The only reason this is noteworthy to me, JMU opens the season winning at Michigan State. They were undefeated all the way up until they lost, like a lot of teams this year were. They were one of the few remaining undefeated teams, and in the snap of a finger, they went from like, could we potentially do this? Could we pull this off? Could we go undefeated throughout the regular season? To now probably not making the NCAA tournament. But App State is a team that's already beaten them. They're on the road now. They got to win this. They can't afford to take more losses if they want to get an at-large bid. So that's a massive game for JMU. Purdue at Rutgers as well on Sunday, TJ.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Sunday
that's the big one. That's the big one.
Yeah, it's a shame it's not a verse 1 matchup. Makes me drastically less confident in our abilities. But Zach Edey hates playing at the Rack.
He hates it.
Has openly said it's his least favorite arena to play at. Ever since he was a freshman, they have like a really dumb looking zoom in, like close up shot of his face that they put on the jumbotron. When he shoots free throws at the Rack. That would frustrate the fuck out of me if I was playing. But we'll see. It's his last trip to Piscataway, so
that does seem
put some magic together one more time.
It does seem perfect if those are produced 3 losses.
Yeah,
are Rutgers, Northwestern, and Nebraska.
Yeah,
and then they just roll through the rest of the Big Ten.
They mix in like a Michigan loss or something this year because they're in shambles.
Yeah,
and we'll see.
Buckeyes are at Northwestern, just down the road from here. It was a game that I had circled on my calendar from the moment the schedule came out. That I'm living in Chicago and I have an opportunity to see Ohio State come to town. This is going to be awesome. And it's with a heavy heart that I report I will not be going to this game. I have stood by my statement that I'm done with the Buckeyes until we win a road game. And we went to Nebraska, played like absolute ass. The wheels are falling off. I didn't watch a second of the game, which isn't my way of skirting around taking shit from Nebraska fans. I don't want to be that guy where it's like, you can't hurt me. I didn't watch the game. It hurts. It hurts. It very much hurts. It continues to hurt. But I've tried everything, and part of me wanted to go to Evanston and save the program. But I can't. I can't be that guy. I can't be. I'm not just going to continue to be that guy for this program. That they have to rely on me to show up and yell at all of them from the second row and get them to play good basketball. They got to figure it out on their own. So that's where I'm at. I'm not going to watch a second of Ohio State basketball until I hear about them winning literally one road game. Yeah. One road game. It's not a ranked road game. It's literally one road game. Play one game in someone else's arena, win that game. I don't care what it takes, how it happens, quadruple overtime. I'll be back in. Until then, I'm not going to watch, so I'm not going to Evanston, and that really is very, very sad. Along the same line, shout out to Nick Stauskas for shitting all over Michigan. I don't know if you saw this, TJ, but he was mixing it up in the Instagram comments. Said these kids have no respect or understanding of what it means to put on that M. Haven't felt any kind of passion or love for the game for Michigan basketball in years. Preach, brother. That's where I'm at with the Buckeyes. So Talking earlier about how rivalries have fallen off, Ohio State-Michigan was never really that awesome of a basketball rivalry, but it was sort of. Like, obviously, the football rivalry is the one that pops for people, but I don't know. The Thad Matta, John Beilein era, they had some really, really good games, and that there was definitely the hatred wasn't there like it was for football. But it was a very, very good rival. And then going back to like the Jimmy Jackson era versus the Fab Five in the 90s, and like the Ohio State Michigan basketball has been good through the years. Like those games have been really good, and for both programs to be where they're at, I mean, like as bad as Michigan is, they beat us. So that's how bad it's just such a sad state of affairs. But shout out to Nick Stauskas for calling it like he sees it, man. Sometimes it's what you got to do. But he and I are in the same boat. He's going to bring us together. That's all the Ohio State old heads and all the Michigan old heads are going to find common ground over hating their alma mater's basketball programs at the moment.
Yep.
What else? Shout out Duquesne doing Dollar Beer Night on Saturday. That's awesome. That makes me want to go to Pittsburgh. Speaking of Pittsburgh, shout out to Pitt in West Virginia. The Backyard Brawl basketball edition has been extended for 4 years. I love that rivalry. That's great for the sport. It hasn't really been awesome lately, but I don't know. I like that they're still playing, and I like that they're stepping to the plate and going to continue playing that rivalry.
When you watch basketball, namely when you watch Ohio State basketball play, do you drink beer? I find it impossible to like let loose.
Oh,
if I'm at
too
a game,
tightly
I'm
wound.
locked in.
Yeah,
I find it I've had 4 tall boys of light beer at about in an hour and a half and not felt anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't have I wouldn't say there's one blanket answer for that question.
Yeah.
It just depends on a lot of factors. Like when I went and saw West Virginia, Ohio State in Cleveland, and I was sitting courtside with Odin, I was hammering Coors Lights, man.
Yeah.
we were hammering them. It made it so much more fun because I'm like heckling refs and yeah, but then I do sometimes get in the what you're talking about where it's like I'm so on edge that like I don't want.
I find it incapable to even get drunk.
But maybe that speaks to like where Ohio State basketball. Like
Right.
how many games have we actually played where I'm like
Locked
in and nervous because if we lose this or like it's been a long time since I've like when we lose I just go fuck there it goes again instead of having my heart broken. Last thing, I'm a Pokemon guy now.
Nice.
So I bought my first packs of Pokemon cards the other day, because Tommy Walker, the son of Brandon Walker and future CEO of Barstool Sports, is a big Pokemon guy, and I got put on a group chat with him. I had found one Pokemon card in a parking lot, and I sent the picture of that card to Tommy, and Nick Terrani shit all over it, and was like, dude, you can't be doing that to Tommy, pulling out I think it was an Abra. I think is what the Pokemon was called. He's like, you can't be sending text to Tommy Walker of an Abra. That's disrespectful. And I felt like I was being bullied, so I accepted the criticism. I did something about it. I went out and bought a bunch of packs of Pokemon cards, and I was ripping through them last night. And TJ, I think I got a lineup that I'd like to share. I have the OG. Everyone on Twitter was telling me this is an OG guy. Gyarados? How do you say that guy? Gyarados. We got a Gyarados. We got a Luxray. Which I don't know what that. I never heard of that guy till I opened him. We got a Skeledirge. Look at that, huh? A little fire-breathing dinosaur. Is he Charizard? Is that the same thing?
Not Charizard, is Charizard.
But are they in like the same family?
I don't know much about
that kind of looks
Pokemon
like
past Gen 2.
Oh, okay. I got a Spidops, which it doesn't look that cool, but it's glittery and it says 260 on it, which seems like a lot. And then I got this bad boy, a Regieleki VMAX 310. And this card does some wild shit, dude. Like it's got the effects right there. And I'm saying all this to say I'm open to tips. I'm open to anybody that wants to give me any tips. I badly want Tommy Walker's respect, and I'm loading up on these Pokemon cards. I got a lot of basic bitch shit in here, but I have no idea what any of this means, what any of these do. I have no idea how to play the game, but I'm trying to just become a collector now and see where it goes. So
there's got to be some card store in Chicago that can help you get started and really get involved in the hobby.
Yeah. I think this is a great opportunity to be super into it, but also not into it at all.
Right.
Like, I think it'd be awesome if I spent an insane amount of money on cards that I don't even know
how to use them.
I go buy like a rare card that like I don't actually desire, but everybody else desires it, so I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, go buy Logan Paul's PSA 10 Charizard. It's like $4 million.
There's a $4 million Pokemon card out there.
It's the only one in the world of that in that quality. He wears it around in like a gold necklace.
All right, well, I gotta work a little harder.
Yep.
I gotta go get that card. Yeah. Anybody has any tips on how to obtain Pokemon cards? Also, anybody wants to trade? I'm gonna start buying packs every time I see them. when I'm checking out the grocery, where do they sell these things? Can I get them at like a grocery store?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
But
Perfect.
You need to know some packs are worthless.
Oh shit.
Some like the packs that may have something rare inside of them probably get scooped up early in the morning.
Okay.
Or at least, I mean, it's kind of cooled down, but a year ago around this time, people were lining up outside of stores and buying every pack in the store.
Fuck
that and like sports cards was super popular. It still is, but
all right. All right. Well, I'm gonna buy a bunch of packs and open them and then tweet them out. And if you want my cards, let's talk business. That's all I'll say. Let's figure out a trade, and maybe by the grace of God, Jeff D'Lo won't step in and veto the whole trade.
Nice.
If we were to trade cards. But there's no telling because Jeff D'Lo is drunk with power. So, all right, that's the show. Thanks to everybody listening, watching. Watch a lot of college basketball this weekend. NFL is winding down, and it's going to happen quick. I'm not telling you to not watch the NFL playoffs because I'm going to be watching them too. But the Super Bowl is coming up. The second the Super Bowl ends, everybody's pivoting to March Madness and where college basketball is at. Do yourself a favor and start getting familiar with these teams and these players now, so that way you don't have to do the crash course after the Super Bowl. This is a great weekend to do it. A lot of great games this weekend. A lot of fun, interesting stories outside of what's happening on the court. Lock in, watch some college basketball. Get the channel changer. I guess it's called a remote. Get that ready. The back button on your remote ready for when football's going to timeout. All that sort of thing. Because it's going to be a fun weekend of college basketball, and we will be back on Tuesday to talk about it all. See you guys then.